The morning sun cast a golden glow across the kitchen tiles as I sipped my coffee, glancing at the clock. It was nearly 10:30 a.m. Marla had been gone since 8. Just a routine cleaning, she had chirped over breakfast, her smile a little too carefree. Something in her demeanor seemed off today, a fluttering nervousness she masked poorly with overly sweet kisses and lingering touches. I tried to focus on the newspaper, the words blurring into a grey jumble. My mind wandered back to Marla's slightly ajar drawer last night, the glimpse of a crimson lipstick, one I had never seen her wear, her usual shades leaning toward subtle pinks. The doubt seeded deep, sprouting fears I had long tried to ignore. The clock ticked louder, each stroke hammering the growing unease. By 11:15, worry clawed at me. I grabbed my phone, her last words echoing, "Dr. Haverford's office, you know, right by the bakery we like." A quick search confirmed the number, and my fingers hesitated only a moment before dialing. "Dr. Haverford's office, how can I help you?" The voice that answered was male, unexpectedly deep, and carried an odd, muffled quality. "Hi, this is Tom Redford. My wife, Marla, had an 8:30 appointment. I was expecting her back by now." There was a pause, a shuffle of noise in the background. "Ah, yes, Mr. Redford. Marla is still here. She's indisposed at the moment. Her mouth is full and she can't come to the phone." I frowned, the word slicing through me with icy precision. "Her mouth is full? Can you please elaborate?" "Just, dental things, Mr. Redford. You know how these appointments can go. Perhaps it's best if you come over if you're concerned." The line went dead, a chill settling deep in my bones. I couldn't sit still. Grabbing my keys, I left, the drive to the clinic a blur of red lights and honking horns, my heart thudding painfully against my ribcage. Parking askew in the clinic lot, I barely noticed the rain beginning to fall, the drops mingling with the sweat on my brow as I pushed through the front door. The receptionist glanced up, startled, her eyes a little too carefree. Without waiting for her to speak, I strode down the hallway, guided by a gut-wrenching mixture of dread and anger. The muffled sounds grew clearer as I approached the last door on the left. Dr. Haverford's office. The gold plaque shimmered mockingly under the fluorescent lights. My hand trembled as I reached for the handle, the voices inside pausing abruptly as the door swung open. The scene before me was grotesque, a tableau of betrayal. Marla, her lipstick smeared, and Dr. Haverford, his expression morphing from shock to fear. No words were necessary, their guilt was as palpable as the thick air choking my lungs. Marla stammered, her eyes wide with horror. "Tom, it's not." "Save it," I managed through clenched teeth, my voice a low growl. I didn't need to hear lies, the truth was vivid and vile in front of me. Turning on my heel, I left the room, their calls fading into the background. The drive home was a haze of red and grey, the storm outside mirroring the turmoil within. As the rain washed over the city, I made 2 calls, one to my lawyer, the other to a private investigator. The seeds of revenge were sown amidst the ruins of my shattered trust. Marla and Dr. Haverford would come to regret their deceit, and as for me, I was done with forgiveness. The chapter of us was closed, and in its place, a darker narrative began to write itself, fueled by the cold embers of betrayal. The relentless rain hadn't stopped since I left the clinic, mirroring the cold fury coursing through me. I barely noticed the soaked clothes clinging to my skin as I stormed into the quiet of my home, the echoes of betrayal ringing loud in my ears. The once comforting spaces now seemed alien, tainted by the deceit that had unfolded under my very nose. My phone rang, shattering the oppressive silence. It was Alex, my brother, who had always had a sixth sense about when things went sideways in my life. "Tom, you sounded off on the phone earlier. Everything okay?" His voice was laced with concern, seasoned with a hint of suspicion. "No, Alex, everything's not okay. It's Marla. She's been cheating on me," I confessed, the words tasting bitter. There was a sharp intake of breath. "I'm coming over." "Stay put," he said, and the line went dead. True to his word, Alex arrived within the hour, his expression grim. As I recounted the day's events, Alex's face hardened, his jaw set in anger. We need to handle this smartly, Tom. First things first, you need solid proof. I know a guy, an investigator. He's the best at digging up dirt. Within minutes, Alex was on the phone, speaking in low, urgent tones. I only caught snippets, immediate surveillance, and total discretion. He hung up, giving me a nod of assurance. We've got someone on it. Now, let's talk strategy. You need to think about the long game here. Revenge is a dish best served cold, remember? His words sparked something within me, a cold, calculating resolve. I want them to pay, Alex. Both of them. And they will, Alex replied, his tone venomous. But let's not rush. The investigator will get us what we need. For now, keep your moves calculated. The next morning brought a new player into my shattered world. Lisa, a mutual friend of Marla and mine, arrived unexpectedly. Her presence was like a breath of fresh air in the stale atmosphere of the past day's events. Tom, I heard about Marla. I can't believe she would do this, Lisa said, her eyes wide with shock. If there's anything I can do to help. Actually, there is, I interrupted. I need to know who else knew about this. Friends, anyone. Lisa bit her lip, hesitating. After a moment, she nodded. Okay, I'll see what I can find out. People talk, and I'm sure they've talked to me without realizing it. Grateful for her support, I felt a sliver of hope. With Lisa's social connections and the investigator's skills, a plan began to form, a net of retribution slowly closing in on Marla and Dr. Haverford. As Lisa left, promising to return with information, Alex patted my shoulder. We're in this together, Tom. Let's make sure they never forget the price of betrayal. The stage was set, the players aligned, and the game of retribution was underway. Each moment brought me closer to the reckoning, a storm brewing over the horizon, ready to break in devastating fury. The crisp morning air did little to clear the fog of betrayal that hung heavy over me as I paced the length of my living room. The investigator, a seasoned man with keen eyes named Frank, arrived with a folder thick with photographs and reports under his arm. Mr. Redford, we've got quite a bit here, Frank began, laying out the contents on the coffee table. His fingers flipped through photos, Marla and Dr. Haverford laughing together at a cafe, walking closely in a secluded park, their intimacy undeniable. Each image was a punch to the gut, but I steeled myself. What else do we have? Frank handed me a stack of printed messages. Texts between them. It's clear this wasn't just a fling. They've been seeing each other for months. My hands trembled as I read through the messages, the words a venomous trail of deceit. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was Lisa, her face flushed as if she'd rushed over. Alex, who'd been silently observing, opened the door. Tom, you won't believe this, Lisa burst out before even fully stepping inside. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. I talked to some friends. Marla's been spinning tales about trouble in your marriage, setting the stage for sympathy and justifying her actions. I clenched my fists, the anger building like a storm within. Anything else? She's been quite open about her unhappiness to a few close friends for a while. It seems she was paving her path out long before today, Lisa added, her voice tinged with disgust. Alex chimed in, his tone calculating. We use this. We show her true colors, expose her lies and manipulations. Frank nodded in agreement. With the evidence we have, we can paint a clear picture. Plus, I've got a lead on Dr. Haverford's financials. Seems he's been funneling clinic funds into a private account. Something Marla might not even know about. Good. Let's dig deeper on that, I said, feeling a sense of control returning. We hit them where it hurts, their reputations, their finances, their peace of mind. As the meeting dispersed, I sat back, the weight of the evidence pressing down on me yet also fortifying my resolve. The plan was taking shape, and with each new revelation, my path became clearer. I wasn't just going to be a victim of their actions, I was going to be the architect of their undoing. Over the next few days, I worked closely with Frank and Alex, weaving a tight net around Marla and Dr. Haverford. The more we uncovered, the more monstrous their deceit became. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a calculated invasion into my life, my security. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across my study, I dialed the number Frank had secured for Dr. Haverford's private line. My voice was calm, cold, and unyielding as I spoke. "Dr. Haverford, I suggest you brace for impact. Your little secrets aren't so secret anymore." The line was silent for a moment before he responded, his voice a mix of defiance and panic. "What do you want?" "Justice. And believe me, it's coming for both of you," I replied, cutting the call short. I leaned back in my chair, the first real smile in days playing on my lips. The game was set, the pieces in motion, and I was ready to strike. The storm of retribution was about to break, and when it cleared, I would be the last man standing. The air was charged with tension as the day of reckoning arrived. I stood outside the courthouse, my brother Alex by my side, a fortress against the storm brewing just beyond the doors. Today was not just about exposing Marla and Dr. Haverford, it was about reclaiming my dignity and perhaps finding a semblance of closure. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with the murmur of attendees, the air thick with anticipation. Marla sat beside her lawyer, her posture rigid, her eyes avoiding mine. Dr. Haverford was there too, his face a mask of stoic resignation. As the proceedings began, Frank presented the evidence with surgical precision. The photographs, the financial records, the testimonies from mutual friends, all painted a damning picture of deceit. With each piece of evidence laid bare, Marla's facade cracked, her composure slipping. Then, it was time for the final blow. "Your Honor, I'd like to call Lisa to the stand," my lawyer announced. Lisa approached the witness stand, her resolve palpable. Under oath, she recounted her findings, her voice unwavering. Marla spoke often of her unhappiness, plotting her exit for months, crafting stories of a failing marriage that never existed. Marla's lawyer rose, his face flushed. "Objection, Your Honor. This is hearsay." The judge waved him off. "Overruled. Continue, Miss." As Lisa detailed Marla's manipulations, a whisper ran through the crowd. I watched Marla, her face now a ghostly pale. When Lisa stepped down, the room was heavy with the weight of betrayal. Then, it was Marla's turn to speak. She stood, her voice shaky. "Yes, I was unhappy. But not for the reasons you think." A hush fell over the room. "I was scared," Marla continued, her eyes now locking with mine. "Scared because I knew about Tom's secret life, his own deceptions. His hidden gambling addiction that threatened to drown us." The room erupted in murmurs. I stood, outraged. "That's a lie!" I shouted, my voice echoing off the walls. "Is it?" Marla challenged, her eyes now steely. "Check the bank records, the late nights at the work. I didn't start this. I just couldn't handle it anymore." Silence enveloped the room as her words sank in. My lawyer handed me a file I'd never seen, bank statements with large withdrawals, casino receipts. My face burned as I realized Frank had kept this from me, perhaps thinking it irrelevant or, worse, believing I'd already known. The judge called for order. "It seems there's more to this case than meets the eye. I recommend counseling for both parties before any further actions are taken." Outside the courtroom, the sky had cleared, but the storm inside me raged on. Alex stood beside me, his expression somber. "Tom, why didn't you tell me?" I thought I could handle it," I admitted, the weight of my own secrets now fully realized. Marla approached, her steps hesitant. "I never wanted to hurt you, Tom. I just felt so alone, trapped by your secrets and mine." The realization of our mutual deceit, our failures and fears, hung heavily between us. "I guess we're both to blame," I said, the anger giving way to a profound sadness. Marla nodded, tears in her eyes. "I hope one day you can forgive me, even if we can't go back. I hope the same for you, I replied. With a final, lingering look, Marla turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Beside me, Alex placed a hand on my shoulder, a silent vow of support. As I watched her go, the hatred I had felt was replaced by a sorrowful acceptance. The deception was mutual, the pain shared. We had both built a house of lies, and now we were left to wander its ruins alone. The intrigue of our marital discord, built on both our deceptions, had come to light, and the only path left was one of reflection and, hopefully, redemption.